Let's hear it louder, don't you think?
Yeah, let's do it again, guys.
Are you ready for more stories?
Okay. Next up, we have Miss Dorothy Thornal from Andrews. Miss Dorothy, come on out.
And Dorothy, I'm going to put you over here. She has a very bad sinus infection. So let's all just have a moment where we hope she gets better. But I'm really glad she's rallying because you're not going to believe her story. A little bit, I'm sorry, I didn't realize how challenged you were in the height department. I'm sorry. Oh, look who's talking. After this, I won't be able to walk. Okay, here you go, Dorothy.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. It's an honor. And I just hope I don't get up here and start coughing and make a complete fool out of myself. But my granddaughters encouraged me to do a little story for this, and it's about first and what happens sometimes when we have a first. What can we bring away from that? So you will have to understand a little bit about my childhood to understand my story. My first is the first time I was ever asked to fix hair on a person that had passed away. It's a very unusual story. When my parents got married, they were both 35 years old, so they were older. They in turn had 5 children. And so you can imagine, a lot of folks thought they were our grandparents when we were in school or whatever, you know, they thought maybe that was our grandparents. And so when we had outings on Sunday afternoons, my dad had a great big family. There were 27 children in his family, but his daddy was married like 3 times. Anyway, what they did on Sunday afternoons, we would load up in our car and we would go and visit their kinfolks, okay? So what they did for entertainment was tell stories. They didn't have TVs and radios, and so they told stories. And they just thrived on ghost stories. Well, I don't have to tell you, being a little girl, I was scared to death of ghost stories. And they always, when we left to go back home, it was always getting dark. And so you know how kids fight over who's sitting beside the windows? We thought about who was sitting in the middle. Because we didn't dare when we closed that window unless something caught us on the way out. And if you're familiar with Georgetown, Mayer Funeral Home was the only funeral home that we ever knew. And since, you know, our parents were older and they had older siblings and all, so there was a lot of death in families. And, you know, when you got 5 children and you don't have anybody to babysit, then when you have to go to these funerals, you have to take your children with you. And so we were subjected to that. A long time ago, people had, you know, they would have bodies at their homes. And when we would go there, I don't have to tell you, I was terrified. You talk about terror being in a child's heart, I'm telling you, I was terrified. And I would stick so close to my mom, it was like we would almost melt into each other. You know, I was so afraid that something might happen. And one night we had to spend the night with my aunt, and they had the body over in the other room. Well, I didn't sleep, and you know, I just keep doing this all night. Put your head under, in the middle of July, you put your head under a quilt because you were so scared you didn't know what might grab you, get you, or whatever. So anyhow, time went on. You have to understand that. Time went on. I got married, and well, I went to school before I got married, and I became a cosmetologist. And so that's how I got asked to fix somebody's hair. So, you know, I enjoyed fixing my lady's hair. I love it. It's like a hobby. It's not really like a job. It's more like a hobby. You get to visit and you have so much fun talking, and you just learn to love these people so much. And this one elderly lady, I loved her so much. And one day I got a phone call that she had passed away. And it just broke my heart. Well, the next thing was, we wanted to know if you could fix Mama's hair. And I'm thinking, what? And you know, I just couldn't believe it. I was absolutely, I was in shock, terror, more like it. So anyway, like I said, Mayor Funeral Home was the only funeral home, and that word, Bob Mayor, would just, that would just put fear just all over you, you know, because if you ever got hurt, Daddy would say, I guess we better call Bob Mayor. When you talk about getting well in a hurry, you got well. So anyway, my, you know, I said, I don't know what I'll do. I can't answer. It took me 2 days to answer them. Well, I called my brother, and like, he's kind of like my soulmate, you know, my older brother, and he could always do anything, and he would always look after us, you know, and everything. And so I called him. He's a barber, and you know, he did a lot of that. I mean, he was all the time going and cutting people's hair and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, look, I got this phone call, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just don't think I can do that. And he said, yeah, you can do it. And I said, but you gotta go with me, because I just can't do that by myself. And he said, well, I'll go with you. And you know, he didn't realize how nervous I was. You know, he just didn't realize that. So anyhow, we got in his van and we drove to Georgetown. He just made all kind of small talk, you know, about cutting this one's hair and that one, you know, and doing all this. And I just couldn't. I said, Lord, what have I gotten into? You know, I don't think I can do this. I just can't do it. And we got to Georgetown, we pulled up in the back of that funeral home, and you know, they have a ramp going up here, and then they have steps going up here. Well, my brother's 6 feet tall, over 6 feet tall, and I'm short, and I always have to walk really fast to keep up with him. So anyway, we got there, and he just bounced right on in. Well, I got to the foot of those steps, and let me tell you something. I never knew. I've heard, you know, my knees were knocking together. I've heard that before. You've heard that. My knees were knocking together. I'm running way over time. I'm so sorry. I got stuck at the bottom of those steps, and my knees were literally on I can't do it. I can't do it. I just can't do it. So anyhow, he comes back looking for me, and I told him, I said, I can't move. My legs won't move. And so he came down there, and he helped me up steps, and we made up steps. And when we walked in that room, and she was on that stretcher, and that white thing was over her, and my heart just failed. And I said, no, Lord, I can't do this. But anyhow, Clint said, yes, you can. Well, so I walked over close, and he walked over there with me. And they had already put makeup on her. The only thing she needed was her hair. They had put on makeup, and she looked absolutely beautiful. Well, she was such a precious Christian lady. I mean, just, you know, I loved her so much. And I knew that was the last thing that I could ever do for her, you know. And what I came away from there with was, you know, I'm doing this, and this is the last thing that I can ever do. And when she meets Jesus, I want her to look really good. That didn't help me one bit. Curling iron up. And I put my hand on it, and I went to touch her hair, and that curling iron went. and my brother walked over, and he's got big hands, and he put his hand over my hand, and he held that curling iron. He said, you can do this. You got this. And he helped me put every curl in her hair. I mean, his hand was on my hand, and we put every curl in her hair. And when I finally got it finished, it was absolutely beautiful. And it was almost like she had a little smile on her face. That's the type of lady she was. She was such a good Christian lady. And the fear was kind of relieved, but just joy in knowing that when she met Jesus, she was going to be beautiful. And she was going to be beautiful when her family saw her. That did my heart so much good. But you will never know how much that hand on my hand meant to me, and how much my brother means to me. And I just thank y'all for allowing me to come and share. And look, I still do that sometimes, but you're always a little bit wary about walking in there. And just for the record, I never go in by myself. I always take somebody. It's a pleasure to be here with y'all tonight. Thank you so much.
That's a beautiful story, and I just would like to tell my family members here that when I am called away, I would like Dorothy to do my hair.